Chapter 4. Isla Nublar. 120 miles west of Costa Rica. July 20th, 2004, late morning. Over the vast turquoise blue ocean waters of the Pacific, it was of in the vast, mostly clear skies, was a Gulfstream G100 private jet, and present on the jet was Claire Deering and the Laurent twins and Simon Masrani himself. He was an Indian businessman, entrepreneur, author, and investor who owned the Masrani Global Corporation and International Genetics Technologies. Masrani was a somewhat flamboyant, pragmatic individual to members of the engine company, but he was a sort of a Santa Claus type of person. Masrani stated. So, Charles, Esmeralda, how was your trip to San Jose? Esmeralda responded, well, that trip you booked us from the Charles de Gaulle International Airport to the Juan Santa Maria International Airport. It was often eventful, but it was a smooth ride, and our flight was on time. Masrani said to the twins, that's wonderful to hear. But what about you, Claire? Claire answered, it was an all-right flight getting from Los Angeles to San Jose. It wasn't anything too special. A moment of silence, Claire asked, so, what are we exactly going to do once we land on the island? Masrani responded, well, the jet will land on the island's landing strip on the southwestern side of the island. However, as of now, this small airport isn't for proper commercial use. It's for cargo transportation to and from the island. Now, we plan to open in October next year, 2005. And a couple of years later after the park's grand opening, it's likely we will get a small commercial airport up and running, and it will be much closer to Main Street. Masrani continued, but today, on your first day, it's rather simple. You were to taken to this private jet at the airport in San Jose not too long after you arrived. Now, once we land at the landing strip, you'll be driven to Main Street, and you'll see Engine's Innovation Center and Creation Lab. Along the way, you might even get a good look at the enclosures. After which, there was several minutes of silence in the private jet, with Claire occasionally looking at the vast ocean waters. Claire then asked, so, Mr. Masrani, how long have you been planning this ecological reserve? Masrani chuckled. The Isla Nublar facilities have been under construction for the past 9 years since 1997, although my company and InGen plan to open the resort a year later in October of 2005. Nearly all of the organic and inorganic facilities present for the Isla Nublar Resort are fully functional and almost complete. Masrani continued. See, Masrani Global Corporation was started by my father, Sanjay Masrani, in 1969. After he died in 1984, I took over as the new company CEO. Claire asked, so, what does your company specialize in? Masrani replied, you see, Masrani Global was once a multi-million-dollar company by '84. Now, under my leadership, Masrani Global will soon become a multi-billion, multinational organization. Masrani Global overall specializes in telecommunication, oil and gasoline extraction, solar energy, agricultural production and growth, bioengineering, and various other programs, saving up non-renewable resources, but also benefiting from renewable resources. And there was a few more signs for a few more minutes before Charles asked, so, where's this island? The Indian billionaire was going to verify Charles's question, but Masrani gasped in pure awe and excitement, and Masrani simply told Charles, there it is. And over the vast, beautiful tropical skyline, there it was, Isla Nublar. Claire could see the high, hilly, mountainous highlands, sloping down to the calm, seemingly deserted, tropical and subtropical coastlines. And behind those highlands, Claire could see the vast subequatorial and equatorial jungles and rainforests. Along this quiet coast, Claire could see the gentle ocean waves crash along the shorelines. Claire was mesmerized by the beautiful landscape of Isla Nublar. Claire was in awe of the mountains and the tropical and subtropical jungles below. She was awe-drawn by the mountains, the coast, the trees, the size of the trees. Eventually, Masrani's jet left the highlands behind and flew over the jungle foliage. But this was relatively short-lived by a straight few feet clearing from large per- perimeter fences. Perimeter fences were rather large. They were more like military fortifications at the DMZ for Claire. They had walks, rather militaristic, and there were large occasional automatic gates. As Claire watched the vast savanna-esque grasslands, she saw the paved maintenance roads along the way. Her new journey would just be starting. Ah! Oh, never mind. Sorry. It's recording. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry. My bad. Just ignore that. It's recording, don't worry. So, I'm super sorry about that. Didn't mean to crash out there. Okay, let's continue. This won't happen again, I promise. Chapter 5 Airport. The Isla Nublar airport was a relatively small commercial and cargo airport with a medium length runway used for handling supplies, personnel to and from Isla Nublar, and dinosaurs to other parts of the island if needed. Simon Masrani's jet circled around for a few moments. The pilots noticed an engine worker with a pair of light wavers, and the private jet carefully descended and efficiently along the runway before coming to a complete stop. The plane's pilots turned off the engines, and that same engine worker opened the jet's doors, after which another engine park worker climbed aboard and placed luggages of the Laurent twins and Claire onto a couple of Ranger Toyota Land Cruisers. After a moment, Masrani, Claire, and Charles and Esmeralda disembarked from the private jet. As Claire observed her surroundings, she noticed someone run over to Claire and the Laurent siblings. It was Justin, and he introduced himself. Hello there. I'm Justin Williams. I'm a newly recruited associate coordinator for the Union Corporation. He asked, So, are you Claire Deering? She responded, Yes, that's me. Justin then told Claire, Well then, please follow me. A few park rangers will show you around a few of the animal enclosures before showing you to the Innovation Center and your hotel room. After which, Justin, Masrani, Claire, and Esmeralda and Charles boarded the two Land Cruisers, and the resort rangers drove them along the maintenance route from the Isla Nublar airstrip. And during this drive, Justin reminded Masrani, Sir, you do recall that there were 3 construction accidents alone earlier this year, as well as that British girl on mainland Costa Rica attacked by those little reptilian things, as well as that incident back in April of an 18-year-old worker being mauled and later succumbing to his injuries. Justin continued, Mr. Masrani, we commissioned the youthful Bright Minds program in order to prove the park is completely safe and ethical to these law firm agencies and by extension the South Korean investors. Though the park is almost complete and its grand opening is bound for next year, these 2 weeks, starting today and ending by August 2nd, will be pivotal in deciding the true fate of the park. Ms. Ronnie chuckled and reassured. Don't worry, Mr. Williams. These 2 weeks will be a unique, unforgettable experience for you and these other volunteers. Ms. Ronnie jokingly chuckled. By the end of these 2 weeks, I will accept your worried apologies. While driving, Charles noticed a sign along the maintenance road, one of which said Main Street, and the other said West Dock, with arrows pointing, with the former having the icon of a resort hotel, and the latter having the icon of a large cargo ship. Claire noticed that the area was mostly flat, really, and was a bit somewhat forested on both sides, with sloping hills on the left side, and after a bit of Driving for a bit, both Toyota Land Cruisers drove through a large, automatically opening gate, which closed behind. This enclosure had large, towering, thick, heavy steel electrified fences. This enclosure was also rather large, and a rather plainsy feel. The enclosure was a sort of a meadow-esque tropical savanna, and there were small forested groves of jungle vegetation scattered around, and in the distance was a large natural river. There was also occasional large acacia trees in this enclosure. Both vehicles stopped for a moment, and Masrani started to have joyful, excited grin on his face. Claire asked, "Why did we stop?" "Did I touch something that broke the car?" Charles scoffed in a slightly rough manner. "This is a gasoline powered vehicle, and besides, he didn't touch anything. Just stopped." Then Claire gasped in pure shock, but also pure awe and excitement. She told Charles, "Hey, Fridge Boy and your sister, look to your left. You won't believe what I'm seeing as well." Charles and Esmeralda looked in the same direction, and Charles asserted, "Well, there's nothing here. It's more enclosure, fencing and vegetation, just bushes and more trees." Claire then grunted, "What? No, your hand left, as in your left hand side. Same with your damn sister." Chapter 6. Welcome to Jurassic World. And there it was. There was a herd of Apatosaurus ajax, large, long-necked sauropod dinosaurs that lived in the late Jurassic period, 155 million to 145 million years ago. And there were about 7 apatosaurs. They were around 23 meters or 75 feet in body length, 20 foot tall or 4.8 meter erect necked, and at a straight angle. The apatosaurs had a long, whip-like tail, a bulky sauropod body, and pillar-shaped legs. They also have a slightly small, lizard-shaped head, yellow-colored eyes. These apatosaurs had a smooth, dark rusted reddish-orange color tone, with distinct black stripes over their back, and a creamy yellow underbelly. Justin remarked, "You really did it over the past 9 years, sir." Ms. Ronnie remarked, "I sure have." Masrani then told Justin, "We managed to clone several dinosaur species here due to bioengineering from our chief geneticist, Dr. Henry Wu, who you'll meet in a moment." Charles whispered to himself, "Wow, Dodgson was right for sure. And we'll make a fortune from this money he'll give us once this blows over." Clara looked in the distance and saw 2 more apatosaurs drinking in the water in the enclosure's river. Claire also noticed one of the 7 other apatosaurs was eating the vegetation of the top of an acacia tree. Claire also saw a herd of iguanodon, also in the same enclosure. There were about 20 iguanodon individuals, some of whom were drinking in the water, but most were eating patches of long grass and shrubbery, or resting. The iguanodons had a reptilian, duck-billed shaped heads and were quadrupedal animals. Iguanodons were herbivorous hadrosaur dinosaurs, with a large thumb spike on their forelimbs, a large dark brown back, and earth-colored bodies with white stripes down the back. The iguanodons also had a bulky body, a straight tail that almost never touches the ground when standing, orangey yellowish eyes, and had no problem standing on their hind legs. Iguanodon also had slightly thicker and slightly longer hind legs and were around 9 meters or 30 feet in length. And they also had a slight, hard to notice hump on their back. Claire asked, "What are these things?" "The ones with the duck-looking beaks or a mouth." Mr. Ronnie chuckled before responding. "That there is an iguanodon. That's a genus of iguanodontian dinosaur, part of the Hadrosauria family. They lived in the early Cretaceous in the British Isles, Germany, France, Belgium, and Spain to 126 million to 122 million years ago. Iguanodon was discovered by British paleontologists Mary Ann Mantell and Gideon Mantell in 1822 before being identified 3 years later in 1825. Ms. Ronnie told the group, "In reality, this is no ordinary zoo or even a tropical hotel resort, as I might have led you to believe. This is an ecological reserve like no other, with genetically engineered real breathing dinosaurs with 100 genetic accuracy to how they would have looked millions of years before humankind. Mizrahi then stated, "Welcome to Jurassic World." Mizrahi then changed the subject. We'll be leaving the enclosure for we'll be leaving the damn it. We'll be leaving the Gyrosphere Valley for Main Street. So you can no wait, not wrong one. So we'll be leaving the enclosure for Main Street. The sauropod enclosure for Main Street. So you can take a look at the creation lab. As such, the park rangers turned on the car engines once more and they drove off, heading eastwards. Claire then asked Maserani, so, do you have a Tyrannosaurus? Maserani answered, yes, and we nicknamed her Roberta. She's still a juvenile as of now. However, as the Land Cruisers left the paddock and back on the maintenance roads, Claire remarked to herself, man, I can't wait to tell Karen about this. Then Claire asked herself, but I wonder, are we going to see that large crocodilian dinosaur? The one the one with the long snout and the big fin on his back? Claire then inquired to herself, man, what's his name again? Chapter 7 Jurassic World. Later that day, July 20th, 2004, noon. The two Toyota Land Cruisers drove to the Jurassic World's Creation Lab. The Creation Lab had a quite large circular structure made of sleek prone gleaming steel and grass and foliage on the roof. Adjoined to the Creation Lab was a relatively small, large enclosure for wall walk and steel railing on one side, and thick electrified steel fencing facing inwards to the enclosure. The enclosure also had a large automatically opening gate at the end. There was also a couple of parking spaces for ranger vehicles. As for the enclosure, it was for juvenile dinosaurs to be raised for a short while before being transported for display in their enclosures. There was also a pair of generators next to the creation lab. The two sleek ranger vehicles drove through Main Street. There were numerous businesses like shops, restaurants, stores, and many more on each side. The road's central path was luxurious, wide, and sleek, and the other two sides of the road were recently paved concrete roads in good condition. The path of Main Street in general was rather wide, and to the front was the Innovation Center, a large, sleek, contemporary pyramidal building with blue, sleek window glassing in a straight angle upwards. Nearby were the monorail stations, and Clara could even visibly see the ocean from Main Street. There was also a large moat-like lagoon, seemingly under construction, in the middle next to the sea. Claire asked Masrani, what are they building over there? As the ranger vehicle slowed down a bit, Masrani replied, oh, that there is the lagoon, the Mosasaurus lagoon. Claire asked, You're gonna have a sea dinosaur here? Masrani remarked, well, back in 2000, we managed to extract mosasaur DNA. Of course, the specimen hasn't been born yet. However, the DNA we found was rather damaged and fragmented. As such, we'll be completing the partially damaged genomes with that of Komodo dragons and modern-day crocodilians. Justin then asked, how was your company even able to do this in the first place? Masrani chuckled. You'll be seeing Dr. Wu in a moment, and he'll explain how all of this was possible. Moments later, the Land Cruisers parked right next to the Creation Lab, and there, outside, was a slender, tall Chinese American man in his late 30s. It was Henry Wu. The Ranger vehicle stopped. The Laurent siblings, Claire and Masrani, as well exited their vehicles. After which the two vehicles drove off. Esmeralda then inquired to Masrani, yeah, so where are they taking our stuff? Masrani promised. Oh, they'll just be taking that to the safari lodge nearby, but I assure you, it's not like the staff would be digging for your stuff. Wu, shortly after, introduced himself. I'm Dr. Henry Wu. I'm the chief geneticist at Jurassic World, and you four must have been invited by Masrani here. Is that correct? Charles replied, yes. Wu then told the group, now let's show you four the creation lab, shall we? The group followed, along with Masrani, followed Wu. The Creation Lab's interior had a sleek, contemporary interior and was a mix of a bioengineering lab and a contemporary office, several incubators for dinosaur eggs, and various bioengineering facilities and technology. Wu began. Biotechnology is the use of living organisms, systems, or biological processes to create useful products, improve plants and animals, or develop treatments for disease and other human challenges. In fact, back in the 1980s and into the present day, scientists in South Africa used selective breeding from a breeding lineage of Bruchel zebra to visually resemble the extinct quagga, which was an extinct subspecies of the plain zebra endemic to South Africa until it was hunted to extinction in the late 19th century. Will continued. So, considering the advances in bioengineering proven by the efforts in the Quagga project, we could potentially bring back megafauna from extinction, like the woolly mammoths, mastodons, woolly rhinoceroses, saber-toothed cats, or, in this case, living, breathing dinosaurs in the flesh. Wu began. There's two ways we were able to create our dinosaurs. This first one is a bit more complicated. Millions of years during the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, mosquito would get trapped in tree sap, and this tree sap would harden over time, and this would become a piece of amber. Eventually, Indians expedition teams would recover these amber mines in places like Wyoming and Lithuania, and we would also extract the amber here to a dinosaur embryo, which could create a dinosaur egg with the advanced state-of-the-art bioengineering equipment supplied by Jurassic World scientists. We will continue. And if there are damaged or fractured DNA strands, which is incredibly likely, we would insert DNA of modern-day archosaurs, the modern-day descendants of non-avian dinosaurs, like reptiles and avian species. However, this was generally a dubious task, as we wouldn't know what the dinosaur species was until we extracted the DNA. In fact, the DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, would be so damaged it would be beyond repair. Wu then told Masrani for other member groups, follow me for the building. I'll explain more. Chapter 8. The Laboratory. Wu explained. A much easier and faster method is by extracting dinosaur DNA from deep rock salt deposits, or we would extract surviving DNA from recovered dinosaur fossils specimens by our excavation team, and although the end and beginning processes would be almost exactly the same with amber, the first method I mentioned was too risky and too dubious, which was why it's slowly fallen out of favor for the other two methods. Wu continued. Now, Jurassic World geneticists could also insert DNA strands of other modern species to benefit their physical health as well. We would add the leatherback sea turtle DNA to add longer lifespans, saltwater crocodile DNA for higher defense against an enemy, bottlenose dolphin DNA for more communication with members of said dinosaur species. Wu then went on. Jurassic World scientists would also insert, if needed, long-eared owl DNA to survive in smaller spaces, Arabian or sand gazelle DNA for more natural hydration, marine iguana DNA for smaller appetites, etc. Charles blurted, yeah, I guess smaller appetites so the dinosaurs don't eat all the tourists. Wu felt offended, but he didn't retaliate. Wu then showed Masrani, Esmeralda, Claire, and Charles a glass-walled chamber of embryo cryobanks. Wu explained, these are the dinosaur embryos, which are used to create dinosaur eggs. These embryo cryobanks and even the egg incubators could survive up to 8 weeks without any human contact. If there was no human activity, and if the lab's generators malfunction or run out of power. Before Dr. Wu can continue, a geneticist scientist went up to the man and told him, "Sir, another dinosaur is hatching right now as we speak." Wu then had an excited grin on his face and told the group, "Masrani, and you four, please follow me. You're going to see a once in a lifetime experience you'll never forget." Charles, Esmeralda, Masrani, and Wu rushed over to the egg incubators. There were about 4 eggs in the slots, but one of the eggs started to shake more and more. Then, after a few seconds, the egg cracked a bit, and over the next several seconds, a baby ankylosaurus hatched out from the egg, looking curiously at the 4 humans in front of it. Claire remarked, "Wow, he's so cute. So innocent." Wu then corrected, "Actually, that's a she. You see, we added a gene modification influenced by a hormone, ensuring that there is a high chance the dinosaur is born as a female." Wu then remarked, "However, there is a 25% chance that a newly hatched dinosaur would be hatched as male." Justin, who had been silenced, asked, "But Dr. Wu, why did you add this gender control gene system?" Wu answered, "You see, although we allow dinosaur breeding in Jurassic World, this is a safety measure to prevent other over-reproduction and overpopulation in order to create a safe, ethical environment for people and the animals." Now, the baby ankylosaur was rather small, could fit in an adult human person's palm. The ankylosaurus had a somewhat bulky, squat body and had simple, dull, bumpy bone plates. The ankylosaurus had a relatively short tail that ended in a flat, simple tail club, as well as a tiny quadrupedal rectangular legs. Hold on, give me a moment, guys. Quadrupedal reptilian legs. The Ankylosaurus also had pale yellow colored natural eyes, a flat body, and simple bumpy spikes along the flanks of its head. Claire asked, "So, what's going to happen to her?" Wu responded, "She'll be raised here, in a small indoor enclosure mostly, and once she reaches juvenile age for an ankylosaur, in roughly a year or slightly more, she'll be living in the Creation Labs enclosure before she'll be sent to Gyrosphere Valley enclosure with members of her species." Justin asked, "Do you guys also have raptors in the park?" Wu told Justin, "Yes, we have one Dakota raptor living on the island as of now. They're in the quarantine pen just northeast of here." Wu then directed, "The raptor pen is on a dirt gravel pathway just beyond the grove of cicades." Wu then told Justin, "If you want, you could see the raptor." Chapter 9, Iteration 4.4. A bit later, Justin, Esmeralda, and Charles and Masrani were standing at the Dakota Raptor's quarantine pen. The quarantine pen was a large box, rectangular shape, with a tall watchtower and a magnetically locking door for loading raptor transport cages. Structured a short metallic wall walk on the side facing from the paddock and fixed steel electrified fencing facing to the quarantine pen. Nearby, there were a few armed guards nearby, and their uniforms were very similar to that of SWAT officers or tactical soldiers, with blackish or grayish dark blue sleek coloring, fiberglass helmets with head comm pieces, body armor, helmets, and specialized gear such as ballistic vests, tactical boots, tactical pants. Charles asked, "Who are these guys?" Masrani told the French boy, "Oh, these guys? They're the Acid's containment unit guards, or just ECU for short. They were a branch of Indian security team responsible for recapturing escaped dinosaurs, known as assets, and maintaining control of Jurassic world on the island efficiently and ethically. But what really caught Charles's mind, as well as the rest of the group, was the noise. Charles could hear the craze hollering and grunting and roaring from the lone raptor, even from several feet away. Claire and the group could also have heard the animal occasionally slam itself against the pen's walls, and even zapping noise from the raptor throwing itself against the electrified fencing. As the group came up to the wall to walk, Claire could somewhat see the raptor. The raptor was around 5'9" and 9 feet in length and had a large serpentine reptilian body. The raptor was bipedal, also had a rigid bird-like skull, reptilian eyes, a single row of sharp teeth with no fangs, and four-digit sharp claws. The raptor also had simple quills on its head, and was mostly covered in feathers along its back and forearms. The velociraptor also had a dark green skin, a white underbelly, and a distinct dark green striping along its back. Claire thought to herself in her head, no wonder reptiles were so feared by humans for much of history. That cold, maniacal body, their cartilaginous skeleton, that rough, aggressive voice, horrific venom, sickly pale color, and squalid habitation where no human could endure willingly. But Claire at the same time felt pity for the raptors. She didn't know why, but she felt like she wanted mercy against these prehistoric creatures. Then, Claire's thoughts were unintentionally interrupted by a voice. Mr. Masrani, welcome back to Jurassic World. Standing there was a physically fit 5'4" woman of 37 with green eyes, and she was wearing leather work boots, dark pale green jeans, military green colored coats, and a white undershirt. She introduced herself to the group. Hello there. I'm the chief veterinarian of Jurassic World. I'm also an animal specialist, now including dinosaurs, as well as a paleontologist. Harding then told Masrani, Mr. Masrani, you should see this new modified tranquilizer rifle that the ACU units should hopefully use soon. Harding showed Masrani and the group of college students from the raptor pen to a small setup research stand next to a few raptor cages used to transport the animals. Harding opened the suitcase, and it had a modified tranquilizer rifle, which oddly resembled an assault rifle. Harding began. This here is what we called the Lindstrand air gun. It's a weapon that uses ammunitions of canisters of carbon dioxide or CO2. The rifle is made to launch subsonic vulgar impacts delivery dart that is delivered with the enhanced venom of the South Sea cone shell, or by its scientific name, the Conus oh god, I'm gonna butcher this. I'm sorry, but I don't know Latin. Conus purpurascens. Harding continued. This is the most powerful neurotoxin in the world. The toxins act within a 0.002 of a second, making it faster than nerve conduction velocity. The animal is down before it even feels the prick of the dart. Hardington then told the group, there's also a Lindstrand tranquilizer pistol in development, and although more advanced prototypes are still in the works, as well as the Lindstrand's pistol, albeit there is only one finalized version as well. This is the only completed final version as of now. Claire became a bit concerned and questioned, how much ammunition has been created for this version? Harding said, about slightly more than 24 of these canisters have been made. Claire asked, is there an antidote for this if you accidentally shot yourself in the knee? Harding replied, no. And even then, what's the point of an antidote if there's no time to administer it? However, there are several safety mechanisms, and there's 2 gun locks for the Lindstrand rifle. Harding then put the Lindstrand rifle and its components back into the said briefcase. Claire then heard her say something to a pair of Jurassic World park rangers, one of which carried the briefcase and the box of tranquilizer canisters, and the other ranger carried file boxes of information on the Lindstrand rifle and its handgun counterpart. Harding then told Masrani and the group of four, well, you four visitors should get rest at the safari lodge. I have to help out a sick Pachyrhinosaurus right now. I'll send you on your way. I hope you enjoy your stay at Jurassic World. Chapter 10 Bungalow. The next day, July 21st, 2004, mid morning, just south of Main Street, beyond the grove of palm trees, was the residence of Simon Masrani on Isla Nublar. Bungalow had a state-of-the-art entertainment system, laundry room and garage, master bedroom, kitchen and living room, a small library, and even a backyard pool. Masrani's bungalow also had a Mediterranean-style dining room, a coffee table, and a station of 6 monitors displaying cameras in and around dinosaur enclosures. Oh, sorry about that, guys. In and around the dinosaur enclosures, and could be switched if needed. Bungalow was Simon Masrani, Dr. Henry Wu, and Dr. Sarah Harding. Harding told Masrani, so we just got word an hour ago from the Costa Rican Institute of Hurricanology of a severe tropical storm which would strike the island this Wednesday. And the reports from San Jose went as far as to say that this storm might even become a Category 1 or, or 2 hurricane. The storm would linger on the island for the next 3 to 4 days before heading northeast and dissipating. As Ronnie asked, oh wow, during a situation like this? After the incident with that British girl and the mauling of that young construction worker? Sarah suggested, we can't wait to see what happens. The storm back in May passed over the island just fine. Masrani skeptically replied, well, that storm would be nowhere as strong as what the Costa Rican Institute of Hurricanology stated. Masrani then replied, we'll continue the tour. If the storm doesn't pass, we'll send nearly all non-essential personnel, all non-essential and non-ACU personnel home until the storm leaves. Neither Harding nor Wu said anything to Masrani for the next few seconds. Then Wu asked, so, what's the plan for today? Masrani paused before answering. We'll show our visitors the Innovation Center, as well as some of the attractions at Main Street, specifically the Hypsilophodon Highlands and the Tyrannosaurus Kingdom, and the Control Center as well. Masrani then inquired. Also, Dr. Harding, what happened to the sick Pachyrhinosaur? Harding replied, well, the dinosaur was sick of a relatively mild case of avian influenza, or the avian flu for short, but also called H5N1. It's a disease variant caused by the influenza type A virus, which primarily affects birds and some crocodilians species, but can sometimes affect mammals, including humans. Symptoms of avian influenza for reptilian and avian archosaurs includes nausea, diarrhea, nasal discharge, weight loss, eye or nose discharge, and coughing, and labored breathing. Masrani questioned, how is she doing right now? How, how long do you think the sickness will last? Harding told the Indian billionaire. Well, she's doing slightly better today than yesterday, but I'll have to go back to the Triceratops territory enclosure to check up on her. Her mild case of the avian flu would last for a few days to at most 2 weeks. I could give the Pachyrhinosaur some antiviral medication if needed. Harding theorized. I believe the Pachyrhinosaur is sick due to the avian DNA inserted to fill gene gaps. As a de-extinction process would fail to remove vulnerable genes, and as dinosaurs are closely related to birds. In fact, when I was still a paleontologist in the Mongolian desert and at the Isle of Wight, some dinosaur fossils had signs of bird-like respiratory problems. The avian DNA is not a factor as to why the dinosaurs could get sick from the avian flu. interrupted Wu. The reason we inserted reptilian and avian DNA is to fill in potentially missing genomes. This was to achieve 100% accuracy to how these animals would have looked millions of years ago, as birds are the closest living relatives to dinosaurs. Masrani told the scientist. Please, Dr. Wu, calm down. I understand your wonderful efforts, but I think you need to calm down. You can return to the creation lab. Wu then assertively told Hardin calmly, please, show a little bit of respect, as without me, Jurassic World could never happen. Before leaving, Masrani's bungalow, storming out. Chapter 11. The Lodge. The Safari Lodge was a large planned hotel for Jurassic World, and in fact is nearly complete and fully functional. The entire hotel is surrounded by large, non-electrified, 12-foot tall fencing with reinforced metal bars for added stability and protection. There was also a swimming pool and a tennis court. As for the actual hotel buildings themselves, there were a handful of large hotels that had rather triangular, rectangular shape and were clean, sleek, and modern. In one of the hotel rooms, the Youthful Minds program members were Esmeralda and Charles, who were sharing a room. This is stupid, 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 cried Charles. He was talking to Dodgson on Charles's cellular phone. On his cellular phone. Charles gave a huge sigh. Then he lowered his voice significantly to an indoor voice. He spoke to Dodgson. Look, we're informed by the park's chief, veterinarius, and chief dinosaur behaviorist of a report from the Costa Rican Institute of Hurricanology from San Jose of a severe tropical storm, which is likely head into the island and might form a Category 1 hurricane if it gets severe enough. Storm would likely make landfall by tomorrow, and I smell Central American humidity, seawater from our hotel balcony, goddammit. Dodgson questioned. So, okay. Do you have a new contingency plan ready for use? Charles told the CEO. Yes, it would be almost exactly the same, except slightly later due to the storm. Charles then asked, okay, Mr. Dodgson, do you have the money ready when we get back to Paris? But more importantly, is your guy on the boat? Dodgson replied, why, of course. I sent a disguised undercover biosyn agent as one of the ship's crew members. He's currently on board the HMS Clarissa. He'll be the one you'll give the Barbasol canister to. Dodgson continued. The Clarissa has just departed very early this morning at U.S. Pacific Standard Time and would land at the West Dock tomorrow in the late evening. You do remember that the ship would land at the West Dock, the smaller engine maintenance dock. This is very different from the South Dock, the much larger waterfront complex of cargo equipment and commercial use when Masrani's little amusement park opens. Charles verified. Yep, I understand that part. There's no need to worry about that part. Charles asked. But I thought we had to get the embryos to San Jose. Dodgson corrected. There's been a change of plans. You see, the ship will return back to the San Diego harbor. I sent in a group to drive back to the embryos to Cincinnati. Charles asked. But that's nearly on the other side of the states. Charles verified. It's only about 31 hours, or 1.5 days. The group of 3 other undercover biosyn agents, they're already in San Diego, awaiting for the ship's arrival. Dodgson asked. Dodgson asked. I'm currently in Cincinnati, and it's 10 o'clock right now. So, are there any questions you want to go over? Charles responded. No, me and my sister are perfectly fine. Dodgson answered. All right then. You can be free to call me whenever you have any questions, but please remember, I won't be available when the ship makes landfall tomorrow. Dodgson told Charles, well, have a good day, and please, don't forget to never break your cover. Dodgson hung up from the call. Charles lowered and put down his flip phone. He then told his sister, Alright, so the plan would be relatively the same when tropical storm likely makes landfall. However, we need to get out to the West Dock to the West Dock slightly earlier than expected before the tropical storm could worsen. Charles then asked Esmeralda, "Do you have the Barbasol can and that CD disc ready?" Esmeralda responded, "Yep, everything is under control. There's no need to worry about anything." On one of the hotel tables, there was the disguised Barbasol canister, but also a CD camcorder and a Maxwell compact disc labeled Dodgson. Charles then told Esmeralda, "Okay, let's go over our plan one last time." Charles began, "While we're in the control room with Hardinger Mizrani." No, wait, hold on. Yeah. Or simply in the Safari Lodge, we temporarily shut down most of the systems. Temporarily shut down most of the systems in the two districts in the southern part of the island. This would last for about 24 minutes, and we would take a quick walk to the creation lab and take one of each of the 15 dinosaur embryos at least. Charles then concluded, "We would then take one of the trooper vehicles and drive out to the West Dock. We will both hand the Barbasol canister to Dodgson's agent. Then we would return back to the monitor center or the Safari Lodge before any of the systems shut down completely." Esmeralda then inquired, "Are you sure this is going to be effective?" An email from Dodgson went into detail of how robust the park security systems would be. Their security systems, especially anti-cyber security threats, would only get stronger by opening day alone. Charles then assured his sister, "Esmeralda, I'm your twin brother. I assure you, there's nothing to worry about." Chapter 12, Innovation Center. The Innovation Center was the main attraction on Main Street when Jurassic World opened to the public. The Innovation Center was over 20,000 square feet in size and had 100 exhibits and 2 stories tall. The buildings also had sleek, contemporary, efficient, and clean interior design and was a high-tech museum-like space. The building had attractions like the Holoscape, main dining facility, skeleton digging, visitor reception and lodging, an information center, guided tours, and the Island Monitor Center. Wait, hold on, guys. Just give me a moment, please. Sorry about that, guys. Really sorry. All right, let's get back on topic, shall we? In this part of the Innovation Center, there's a few composite casts of dinosaur fossils, specifically Triceratops, Stegosaurus, Tyrannosaurus rex, Monosaurus, Deinonychus, Apatosaurus, Allosaurus, and several other dinosaur details, with detailed up-to-date information. There was also a suspended mosasaur specimen, and even a megalosaurus, or Irish elk specimen, and a skull of a mylodon, or saber-toothed cat, both of which were non-dinosaur, Pleistocene epoch mammalian megafauna, but still impressive. There was also several other findings, like dinosaur nests, dinosaur eggs, skin impressions, teeth, and more. There were even a few really well done and intricate paleo art dinosaur paintings, and a few false taxidermy models of a Montosaurus, which had a green and yellow color scheme, a teal head and orange body with yellow highlights, and the creature had a prominent fleshy red comb on its head. It was 33 feet or 10 meters in length. Harding was following Masrani. In a new report on the oncoming tropical storm, Harding began. We just received another report from the Costa Rican Institute of Volcanology. Tropical storm hasn't changed course. It's bound for the island. However, it's more likely that the storm would only last for a day or two, at least, to as much of to as much as a couple of weeks. Harding then asked, "What should we do right now?" Masrani contemplated as he walked through the Innovation Center. He replied, "The ship is already bound for this island from San Diego. We'll send nearly all non-security and non-essential personnel home until the storm passes." Masrani then told Harding, "However, I, Dr. Wu, and you as well as the inspection team, would stay behind on the island." Harding then changed the subject. "So, what about that incident on the Costa Rican mainland of that British family?" As Ronnie paused, he then answered, "That was an isolated incident that the engine had just covered up. There was an undocumented group of compies that happened to escape the island, but there's no way they can survive in the Central American wilderness." Miss Ronnie elaborated. "You see, nearly all of the dinosaurs in Jurassic World had a tracking implant shortly after birth. These trackers are to shock the dinosaur if it manages to escape containment. And a large, they'll die of starvation or compies simply can't survive outside of the island. They'll die of starvation or dehydration after a few weeks. And besides, compies are relatively harmless. These just so happen to be a rather aggressive breed of the animals we made on Nublar." Harding then asked, "Why did we even create compies in the first place?" Masrani replied, "Well, compies, like their fossil record counterparts, these come Compsognathai feed off of dead carcasses of larger animals. They're sort of a cleanup crew for the larger dinosaurs." Masrani told Harding, Compsognathus were carnivorous small theropod dinosaurs from France and Germany. They lived over 150 million years ago and ate insects and small lizards. However, Dr. Wu inserted dung beetle DNA into the compies. If needed, they would be introduced to the paddocks of large sauropod dinosaurs, because the compies would eat fecal matter to dispose of the sauropod species. This would be necessary because most of the modern bacteria needed to break down the massive piles of dinosaur dung had gone extinct. Harding asked, "Has this ever happened yet?" Harding replied, "No, but the compies reside in the Dryosaur Highlands traction with Dryosaurus and Oniphiella." Harding then asked, "So, where's the group again?" Answered, "Dr. Wu is showing the group the attractions on Main Street, like the Tyrannosaurus Kingdom and the Dryosaur Highlands." Alright, that should do it for today.